Oh, hello there. Keith Beavers, Tasting Inspector of VinePair. How you guys doing? Today we're going to talk about Krug, the 171st edition. One of the wines that made it in our VinePair's top champagnes of 2023 list. But before we do anything, if you love me, subscribe. And even if you don't love me, can you just hit the button to make it stupid anyway? Calm down, Keith. You had too many espressos, you're fine. There's no such thing as too many espressos. In the land of champagne, there's something called Krug. There's a lot of champagne out there. And the way champagne works in the majority of the market that you're gonna see everywhere is that every year there's a harvest. And if the champagne house believes that that harvest is special enough, they will do what's called a vintage champagne. But they always put some wine into reserve. So every year they have what's called a house blend. And that is what we know as non-vintage wine. You can go right now to a shop, buy a champagne, if it says NV or non-vintage on it, that is the house's style every year. And then, oh my gosh, we had a really great year. Stop, we're not gonna do a non-vintage this year. We're gonna do a vintage. That's how champagne works. Krug is completely different. They are one of the most unique winemakers in Champagne. So they don't do vintage and they don't do non-vintage. What they do is every year they have a harvest like everybody else. And every year they make a wine from that harvest, but they don't make it just from that harvest. Every year they go and taste all the other vintages that are in reserve and blend it with the current harvest. They have this very interesting way of talking about all this. It's like a symphony. Everything always, all these different parts coming together. So what's happening is they take the newest vintage and they look at all their past vintages and they find out which many of these reserve wines fit into the blend of this specific year. Every year a harvest is different and every year the blend is different. So therefore, Krug doesn't have vintage or non-vintage, they have additions. That's why this is the 171st edition of Krug. It's a very unique, very interesting way of making wine. So let's go ahead and give this champagne a taste. This is a champagne glass. When they say champagne goes to your head, they are not lying, especially when it's really, really good. This wine is singing a song to my brain, my heart, and my soul. I'm just saying. You can tell right away on the nose that there is a kind of a deep bruised pear, almost like a cooked pear. And underneath that is this slight hint of caramel, maybe even a hint of marzipan. And then on top of all that is this like beautiful layer of very subtle lemon curd. It's just like layer upon layer upon layer. I haven't even sipped it yet. This is just beautiful. I didn't spit it out. So good. Oh man, this is not your typical champagne. The palate is rich, it's deep, it's grippy. It's seen a little bit of oxygen. It has a little bit of a darkness to it, but it's vibrant at the same time. The bubbles are soft. They're not too aggressive. They have a beautiful perlage, as they say in France. The cool thing is a lot of that stuff that I smelled on the nose carries over to the palate, but in addition to that amazing profile of aromas, you get an awesome texture as well. There's a slight grip on the palate. There's a very deep fruit on the palate as well. And the perlage, which is French for bubbles, is not aggressive and subtle and actually lifts all this awesome subtlety into your senses. The wine is more involved than other champagnes, but it's balanced at the same time. I mean, because of the way they make this wine and the result, attention to detail here is out of control. It is something you don't often see in champagne. And because of the skill involved in making this wine, I give it a 96. I sure did. So just to recap, this is the Krug 171 Grande Cuvée, which is a wine that is built every year in a very interesting and unique way. Have you ever had Krug? Have you ever had it? What edition have you had? What was your favorite edition? Do you buy editions of Krug? What's your favorite one? Do you like the idea of how this house makes champagne? Is it something more people should do? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I'm Keith Beavers and I'll talk to you soon.